Let's roll. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency, the pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people, the bustlers, and everybody else in between. The Twisted Tuesday has begun, and we're doing this conference championship week style. We've got basketball. We've got college basketball, NBA basketball, NHL hockey. Free agents keep on signing in the National Football League, but not with the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys were the only team in the National Football League yesterday not to retain anybody. They didn't keep any of their free agents, and they didn't sign any free agents. Jerry Jones has an interesting strategy this offseason. It's the Homer Simpson strategy. Close your eyes and hope for the best. Close your eyes and just think when your eyes open up, everything's going to be just fine. I guess that's Jerry Jones's world. Right now, there was talk about Derrick Henry potentially being a Dallas Cowboy. He's going to be a Baltimore Raven. People in Minnesota are kind of confused and panicked right now as the Vikings sign Sam Darnold to a one-year deal. And don't worry, New York Giant fans. You know, if you're not happy with Daniel Jones, you've got Drew Luck. All right, so that's going to work out great as well. At MetLife Stadium in the Meadowlands. Like I said, this NFL free agency stuff, it's like Christmas, and the adults and the parents are basically NFL owners, and the kids are NFL fans. And on free agency, whether the toy is good or not, and whether it's going to break, and whether batteries were included or not, there was nothing worse than that, than getting a badass toy on Christmas morning, and they didn't think to include the batteries with it. I've been there, all right? But, it's like, reshuffling the deck on the Titanic, basically. It's like, does it really matter? Oh, Aaron Jones on the Vikings now. Well, whatever, he's just on the Packers. Okay, now he's on the Vikings. Now Josh Jacobs on the Packers. Like, very few of these deals are sort of like, wow, that team really improved. That team really brought in some good football players. I like the Patrick Queen signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, actually, and I like the Russell Wilson acquisition. Shout out to everybody joining us on SiriusXM channel 159. Let's do this thing. The Raging Redhead Cam Stewart's going to return tomorrow night. Of course he is. Got the Players' Championship starting on Thursday. So Cam Stewart will be back tomorrow night. Sean Higgs going to be in the house tonight. I see Sean retweets the show. And he goes, conference tourneys, and we get an NFL gif, as I got a picture of Derrick Henry. Yeah, number one, I did that because the National Football League is a little bit bigger than, like, what happens in the South Dakota State and Denver Pioneer game. Now, don't get me wrong, I have money on the game. But with that being stated, the NFL is king. All right? Look how many people watch the Combine. Right? These tournaments, more people are paying attention, but the NFL is king 365. It just is. And while I think it's kind of crazy, they're going to have an 18-game season and they want to stretch this out. I understand why people just crave NFL football 365. Rick Saratella normally joins us on Tuesday nights. He's going to join us later in the week. So will Brent Beard. Nick Saban's going on a warpath right now, talking about why he left and basically talking about players making too much money, which is a pretty bad look for a dude that's made as much money in the game as you have. But speaking of money, let's start off in the association right now. We've got the T-Wolves and the Clippers coming up here, ready to tip off in a couple of minutes from the Crypt in Los Angeles. They're playing their final season in this arena. The Minnesota Timberwolves, 2-4 in their last 6 games. They haven't had Karl Anthony Towns yet. I think they can deal with not having Karl Anthony Towns. The problem for them is they can't, obviously, Anthony Edwards is the one that's going to score the points for them, but they need Rudy Gobert, right? Rudy Gobert misses games. They're in a lot of trouble, even if Karl Anthony Towns is there. So Rudy Gobert was out. Now Rudy Gobert is back tonight. I know the Clippers are a good team. And I see Kawhi Leonard getting ready right now, and there's Paul George. These guys are the real deal, all right? Like, I don't dismiss it, but I'm getting 5.5, 6 points here with the T-Wolves. I think the T-Wolves can keep this game close tonight with Rudy Gobert back in the lineup. They only give up 106 points a game, best in the NBA. So give me the T-Wolves plus the points. Plus, listen, I think the T-Wolves are really good for real. The T-Wolves are a big team. I don't think people realize, like, it's not just Rudy Gobert. Like, they got a lot of big dudes on that team. Tall dudes, big dudes, box you out dudes. They bang the glass. They're not going to be an easy out in the playoffs, the T-Wolves, because they're not really, like, they play defense. They compete, right? They actually, like, scrap for loose balls and stuff like that, which not a lot of teams in the NBA do. And it seems like they've been on the road forever. For those of you that follow the associate, does it feel like this T-Wolf road trip has been forever? Right? They've been in tough spots. They were in Cleveland like last week, playing in overtime, and they've been all over the place. You know, they play the Lakers. Like they've been all over the place. I think they've had a day off now, a day off or two here. I'm expecting a good performance from the T-Wolves tonight. I'm not that superstitious of a person, but I do like winning the opening tip of basketball games. And the T-Wolves just did. So T-Wolves get the ball first. The Bucks and the Kings are playing. Well, whatever, man. First things first, it's a Kings game. You know it's going to be close. I never advocate basketball teasers, but I swear to God, we should just tease the underdog in every Sacramento King game and we'll make money. A lot of it. I don't trust the Kings against an elite team like the Milwaukee Bucks. I think Sacramento are good, but Milwaukee are starting to dial it up a notch right now. And it's funny how Doc Rivers is in a no-win situation, right? If the Milwaukee Bucks are losing games, Doc Rivers is a clown, and it's his fault that they're losing games. And if they're winning games, it's not because Doc Rivers made any adjustments or anything, right? It's just because, Dame Lillard, right? Fact of the matter is, Dame Lillard didn't play great to start the season. They really were affected big time by losing Drew Holiday. He was their defensive core. He was the heart and soul of what they did. And they were 30-13 when they fired their coach. But long story short, Dame Lillard's starting to ball right now. Like, he's starting to get into a groove and play like Dame Lillard. So between him and Giannis, they're putting up like 65, 70 a night combined, which is enough to win. Give me the Milwaukee Bucks plus the 1.5 tonight. Let's go over the number, 235.5. We're going to go over the number in that game. No total play in the Wolves and the Clipper game. But we're going to play the over in the Milwaukee-Sacramento game, and we're going to play the Milwaukee Bucks plus 1.5. Speaking of the over, I've got the over of the Pacers and Thunder game. I'm not going to win it, which is pretty frustrating, to be honest. Normally, Pacer games are track meets. The fact of the matter was, tonight, Oklahoma City just didn't bring it. Gonzaga and St. Mary's. St. Mary's are up at the half. The second half has just started. They're up 33-29 right now. In-game total, 133.5. It's a little lighter than what the closing number was, but I think we're going to get there as it did last night. The St. Mary's game opened up.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of the sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
4.22, the fastest man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Let's roll. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency, the pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people to bust them, and everybody else in between. We're throwing it down. A Twisted Tuesday has begun. Teams are trying to punch their ticket to the big dance, March Madness, and they continue to do so. Big man on campus will join us a little bit later on. We'll get his take on the teams that have punched their tickets and what's to come this week. We do have NBA basketball going on tonight. We just talked about the T-Wolves and the Clippers game. That has tipped off 11-6 Clippers early. And Sacramento, quick start for Sacktown. They're up 11-2 right now on the Milwaukee Bucks. In-game total, right where we started at 235.5. I'm on the Manhattan Jaspers tonight. Jaspers, they've been up most of the night tonight, but they're suddenly trailing by 5 right now to Iona. It's actually now 4, 49-45. With 8.5 left, Iona are laying 6.5, the unofficial team of the grid, Iona. Like I said before, if you want to work at ESPN and you want to live in Bristol, Connecticut, you go to Syracuse University or you go to Northwestern. If you want to work operations at SportsGrid, go to Iona. We also accept Hofstra and Marist as well. And Iona are up by 3 right now. I just didn't trust them laying the points. We talked about it last night. So give me the Jaspers to hang on here. And I'll tell you what, St. Mary's right now starting to pull away on Gonzaga a little bit. 42-31 on the Zags. We played 3 minutes of the second half. I think it's time to jump in on the in-game total. It was 133.5. I told you I like that to the over. It's 137.5 right now, but now that St. Mary's have a little bit of a lead, Gonzaga is going to open things up. Let's bring in Andrew McKinnis right now, talk some pucks and more. The Vegas Golden Knights and the Seattle Kraken, McKinnis, have just started a couple of minutes ago. We're still scoreless right now. Who did you like in this game tonight?
Gabe, I like the Vegas Golden Knights. The Seattle team's been playing some good hockey, man. They have. I respect them. I've definitely realized they're better than I thought they were. Tried to find spots to bet on them. But I think even at this number we're seeing, which is still a little bit chalky here, I like this Knights team, and I'm not doing regulation, no team total, no fancy stuff. I laid the chalk. This, to me, is a Vegas team that saw how active their GM got at the deadline. And I'm always making jokes about the LTIR, all this and that. The fact of the matter is this is the time of year this team is ready to gear up. They're playoff ready. And to me, I think they're just too fast for this Seattle team. Seattle plays very well against teams that can shut down. I'm not convinced they can shut down this Vegas Golden Knights team.
You know what? I'm sort of wearing Vegas Golden Knights colors right now without really realizing it as they're playing. All right, we got a penalty to start this game right now, or at least we're a couple of minutes in. So there's a power play coming up. But me personally, I respect your opinion here, but I hear a lot of people talking about this, Vegas that, they're dialing it up and all this. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen, like, you know what I mean? I'm not losing sleep over the Vegas Golden Knights right now. People can worry about the little games that they play with the salary cap and stuff, and rightfully so. But I think Seattle are a live dog tonight. I'm going to take Seattle plus 130.
Let me ask you this. Do you believe that Seattle is correlated with the under sometimes when you like them? Because to me, they're a team that can score, but they're not really a team that's going to wow you with their offense, right?
I like the bet totals, Andrew, but I find Seattle are too erratic with the totals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no real, you know, we get their number right now, but there doesn't seem to be a real sort of definitive pattern with them. I know they had a little run where they went under. They had some good goaltending and stuff, and they're often 5.5, their totals, right? They get a lot, you know, they're never really 6.5. It's usually that 5.5, maybe 6 range. So I don't play a lot of their totals, to be honest with you. And people think of Vegas as an over team, but, you know, like, they're not easy to score on, Vegas. So like I said, I stay away. I didn't think about the total of this game tonight. But I would, if I had to, I would have bet the under.
I don't like starting the show where we're both on complete opposites here.
You like the over
because you ask me. You know, you often ask who I like. You know, what side. But a lot of times I am a totals better. I do play sides and things, but you know, look at this Vegas team, Gabe. Like, that's the funny thing right now with them is that during their little slump when all their players were injured and they just weren't looking the same. The funny thing is their offense wasn't really what was hurting them the most. You know, giving up 7 goals to the Sabres, 6 goals against the Jackets, 5 against the Bruins. Everyone was complaining about all these star players being injured offensively. But, I mean, are they missing the star players and they're back-checking? Because right now their defense has almost looked worse than their offense. So I'm hoping they can turn it around. But actually, my stronger bet, I don't like to double dip total inside too much. I am on the over in this game as well here.
But you are right about Vegas. That was their problem. They were just giving up way too many goals. And that's why they're 8-2 to the over in their last 10 games. But as I was saying about like a definitive pattern, so Seattle are 32-27-4 to the under on the season. So there's a difference of 5. So there's a small little, not much differential to the under. Meanwhile, Vegas, bro, 32-32 as far as totals are concerned.
Wow.
Yeah, like that says it all. Like, I didn't even know that definitive. I didn't know that exact number, but what I just said, I'm like, they're both sort of, you know, there's no real pattern here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Between the two of them, they can, you know, especially Vegas. Vegas can score. But, yeah, 32-32 with the total coming in to tonight. So I will say this about Vegas. As a Vancouver Canuck fan, I don't, like, it would be bad luck for the Canucks. Like, just like, are you kidding me? You guys get the 1 seed, and your reward is actually you get the Vegas Golden Knights. And so I'm not dismissing Vegas. I think they'll be a difficult team to deal with in the playoffs. But tonight, I like Seattle. But what do you think of that? Will Vegas end up will they end up 7th or 8th, do you think? Will they be that last wild card team, or are they going to move up?
That's tough. I mean, you know what? Some of these bottom teams are starting to play some good hockey. I mean, they're not going away. The teams that are trying to catch up on them aren't going away. I mean, you and I were talking on Twitter earlier about what Minnesota did the other night. Unbelievable stuff. Watching that in overtime, very cool. I didn't even know that rule. I found out that rule about the whole overtime, pulling your goalie, and if you end up losing, you don't get the point. I mean, some of these teams are being aggressive. Same thing with Nashville. St. Louis hasn't even given up, but you know, I think that Vegas, the thing is, they're just hanging on right now, and they haven't been playing good hockey. I think they could advance. They could bump up, but it would not shock me, Gabe, if they stay the exact same spot they are right now. What do you think about overall the situation out west? I hopped on a future on the Winnipeg Jets. I shopped around. I got them at 15-1 several days ago. And I'm hoping that they can actually leapfrog and they can end up with the 1 seed to avoid playing the Colorado Avalanche in the first round. That's the thing. I mean, with this new format, we always complain about matchups, right? And now we're at the point where we've known for about, 3 months who each team is going to play, and you're kind of now just cheering for your team to avoid a certain team. I mean, Leafs fans know it's inevitable. They're playing the Bruins, and they are not going to have home ice advantage. Tampa Bay, they're sitting here in 20+1 odds, and they've been around the block for many, many years. You know, they're just waiting to get into the playoffs. Florida Panthers, they got embarrassed last year. Or excuse me, the Boston Bruins got embarrassed last year. They're just eager to get to the playoffs again and bounce back. So to me, this format does suck, but it is really interesting to see teams maneuvering up and down the standings here.
I don't know what it is, but it's sort of, to me, the Eastern Conference is just kind of boring, right? But the Western Conference, stuff moves every day. Like, there's really good teams. Like, man, we could be like first in the West, or we could be fourth. Like, we could slip here suddenly. There's no room for error. Like you said, the East, there's only a couple of good teams. Everybody's sort of set in stone and waiting for the playoffs. But then you get to the West, bro. Every night is big. The Oilers, you talk about Vegas trying to get back on track. Seattle are fighting for their lives. Vancouver trying to hang on. Winnipeg coming on. Dallas, big win tonight.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
4.22, the fast man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Morency, the pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people that bust them, and everybody else in between. Kicking to us, including Andrew McKinnis. And McKinnis is excited right now that he says he's a Canadiens fan. He's wearing a Habs hat, but you should drop the charade and just start wearing some Colorado Avalanche gear, bro. That's your team. We all know it. You're a closet Avs fan. You're all excited, but I guess maybe you have money on them. But, yes, they've come back. They're up 3-2 right now.
I've got my play of the night is over 6.5. So it's not even to do with the Avalanche. I don't even care who wins. But they were.
I think the Avalanche are dangerous in the playoffs, though. Just for the record, I'm throwing that out there. Even though they bothered me for some reason. But
they were down 2-1, but they had like 22 shots on goal in the first period. The Flames had 8. And they had 2 goals on the board. It was just one of those weird periods where the team that was dominating was losing the period. So the fact that before we came back in, it saw 3-2 Colorado, I was pretty pumped about that. You know how when you go into an over sometimes, Gabe, and you're like, if this team helps me out, I'll hit the over. I needed a few from Calgary. I wasn't worried about Colorado.
Yeah, that's how I feel about this basketball game, which let's check back in with right now.
Okay.
About the over with Gonzaga and St. Mary's. Like, I don't know, St. Mary's like to play slow, but St. Mary's actually are the ones that got out to like into the 40s first. So I was thinking, all right, that's good because it'll, you know what I mean? Like Gonzaga can score. I know Gonzaga can score. So as it is now, it's right on the number. It's 138.5. At the half, we said over 133.5, and we got the pregame over to at 139 or whatever it was earlier in the day. So Andrew McKinnis kicking with us. We'll get to some basketball and football. McKinnis and Pack will get to the Packers. But sticking on the ice right now, yeah, it's wild. And, they just scored again, man. You're killing it, bro. 4-2 Colorado.
Let's go. See,
there's good news.
Sometimes you look at, like, people say, like, there's analytics and all this and that. But you know what? Sometimes there's the eye test, right, Gabe? I mean, I've gotten into some of those fancy numbers you hear people talk about. The only sport that I will say I care a lot about these fancy numbers, baseball. That to me is a sport. You can look at some of these numbers and say, you know what? That matters. I sat downstairs and I was watching every single second of that Colorado game. And I really do believe that game was going to pop off. So when I saw it, you saw how excited I was. But baseball, I think is one that you can really count in.
I agree with you. I think with hockey, they don't talk about it much, and not all teams. All teams are sort of better at it now, but there's certain teams that are much better at it, bro. Like basketball, I was going to say basketball is pretty number related too. Like offensive efficiency, pace of play, stuff like that is pretty important. Like, you know what I mean? There's some of this stuff I see about DVOA and this and WAR. I'm like, dude, like. You guys you made it up yourself a couple of years ago, this stat, right? But, you know what I'm saying? But hockey is such a reactionary sport, but there really is things with players, bro. I do believe in player data, right? Certain players, certain part of the ice, they're going to score more and stuff. And I think smart teams know how to utilize this stuff. And they know which players to sign because it fits their computer mold. But like I said, there's very few NHL teams that are up to speed with this stuff right now as compared to other sports. But you're right about baseball. Baseball is such a number sport, versus left-handers, this and that, can't hit this pitch. And it's so fluid. I would agree with that. That's why it's annoying to bet, bro. Like baseball betting's not that big in the grand public. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not easy.
You have to work.
You know what I mean? It's not easy. Yeah, exactly. They're playing every day, bro. There's 25 guys on the team. It's a different pitcher every day. The games are decided by the bullpens. You get different lineups. It's not an easy. It's like following, I've always said, it's like following a Mexican soap opera or something. It's like if you miss 1 or 2 days, bro, you're out of the loop.
Yes.
Like that's why football is so popular to bet on. It's, you know what I mean? People wonder, how does football have this grip, right? But that once a week stuff, right? Everybody, you don't have to put in 16 hours a day to know about the NFL. Doesn't mean you're going to be good at it, but you know what I'm saying? Everybody thinks they know it, right? They watch it because everybody watches it. Baseball, bro, like, dude, it's freaking annoying. Like, it really is. It's you have to really love it. If you love the sport, it's cool, but I don't know how many hours you put in, like sort of cap it, but it's like 2, 3. It could take 4 hours to go over these baseball games. Some people take like 12 hours, but I'm not that crazy about it, you know?
And the biggest thing too is that you could miss a trend, right? Like, you realize this pitcher that you haven't really been following is getting rocked for like 4 straight starts, and you're like, why did I not realize that? And then you go in and start betting against them. Too late.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
You
waited too long
all the time.
But Gabe, one thing I saw you tweeting about though earlier, maybe during the trade deadline for the NHL, I really agree with you on this. You were talking, and I can never tell sometimes if you're joking or you're being serious. I think sometimes it's a little bit of both, but you're like, what's with these guys just, changing teams that nobody wants anyway? The draft's more important. You said that, I think, for maybe NFL and NHL.
Yeah,
the thing is, the players that get moved, and I really believe this, the players that get moved at the deadline for the NHL, the ones that are the most meaningful are not top 6 players, are the bottom 6 players. Those are the ones that actually end up mattering in the playoffs. The guys you're picking up in the summer, those are the top 6 guys. The guys that are the grinders, the guys that aren't scared to go in the corners, everybody hates your Corey Perrys of the world, right?
Look at Zadorov for the Canucks. Like, just brought a bunch of toughness for them. He's not a household name or anything. People, they didn't do anything at the deadline. No, they did it 3 weeks ago.
Yes. So, and Adam Henrique with the Oilers.
Yeah. That was a nice. There was a couple of, like I said, there was a couple of nice little pickups. But at the same point in time, I saw someone saying, I don't know if it was, I think it was Craig, might have been Craig Button. I think it was Craig Button. And I agreed with him. Which they were talking about the Leafs. Oh, the Leafs didn't do enough at the trade deadline. They needed more grit. They should have got this big defenseman. And I like what Button said. He goes, every team should have a big defenseman going to the playoffs because we all know this. What you really need? Yeah, we really need. It's like you're going to hear in an NCAA tournament now. Well, you need a point guard. No, I thought you didn't need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like saying you need shoes to play. Yeah, okay. We need a point guard. I'm aware. Thank you. Thanks for the insight. You know what I'm saying? Well, you need a point guard. You need that goalie, right? But I like what Button said. He said, dude, the Leafs are going to win or lose in the playoffs because of Mitch Marner, because of Austin Matthews, and because of Nylander. He goes, all the other stuff's fine. He goes, those guys need to win for them. And it goes both ways, right? Like you're right. It's all about that grit. But when it comes down to it, like the Canucks ain't winning in the playoffs if Pettersson and JT Miller and Besser don't score. Because the third and fourth line guys, they'll do their thing, but they're the addition to the top. Like, you know what I mean? They're just there. Yeah, they help, but they're not winning it for you. They're just sort of, you know what I mean? They sustain it. Your star players win when they're on the ice, and the other, line 3 and line 4, don't F it up. Keep the lead. Don't blow the lead for us, right? Wear them out for us, and we're going to go out and score again. Right? Like this plugger stuff that people think are going to save the world, man. It's like, look how many guys the Leafs have gotten all the time, bro. Oh, we got Wayne Simmons now. Oh boy. You know what I mean? Do you think Wayne Simmons going to change anything for them? Yeah, he might hit someone. Oh, they sparks the room. Dude, you know what I mean? It doesn't work, bro. Like, your best players need to play well. Point blank. That's my take.
Well, to me, that's why picking up Bertuzzi, right, last summer in the offseason, Max Domi, some of these guys, do you think that Brad Treliving cared how they performed in November, December, January? Bertuzzi's playing his best hockey right now because that's why they signed him. They didn't sign him to score goals in December, right? They've got guys for that. They signed a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi to score goals when the weather starts to get warmer, when the springtime is here, when playoff time is here. And that's why you want to have them for the full year to gather that chemistry. People don't realize how hard it is to join a team so late. In the NHL, the trade deadline's a week before the playoffs. How do you gather chemistry when you barely even know the guy's name next to you on the bench?
Yeah. They did this for supposed excitement and stuff, but I can't buy into the Leafs. And I have in the past where I'm like, they could win. Like, I'm not anti-Leaf. I'm not anti-Marner or Matthews and stuff, but I just don't think they have it. Like, you know what I mean? And not just them, their entire team. I don't know if it's a chemistry, whatever it is. Like, they don't have that next level, I don't think. When it really starts to pick up, they could get eliminated in the first round. I think they get eliminated, like, seriously, they get eliminated in the first round. So I got to bet it on the Canucks to win a division, and I've already hit, like, the first 2 legs of it because I parlayed it and stuff. So now the Canucks have had a great year. A lot of stuff has gone their way. Or I should say they've earned it. It's not like they've been lucky, but they haven't dealt with a ton of injuries. That's the best way of putting it. They really haven't, right? It's been a pretty smooth, like perfect year for them. Up until now, they lose their star goalie for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Yet, I don't really, there's no surgery involved or anything like that. And we're talking about a dude, bro, who's played like 47 games this year. He plays too much. So it caught up to him. Like he's had to leave before because he's been dehydrated. And I get it. They like the winning, and they're like, wow, let's do it. You know, the game he just got hurt at, he played 14 of the last 17 games, McKinnis. It's a lot, bro. 14 to 17. It's like, listen, man, we got to, you know what I mean? We got to give this guy a rest a bit. And lo and behold, a little tweak, whatever, something happened, tweak, pulled, whatever it was, you know, he's out for a couple of weeks. They're at home for like the next 2 weeks, which really helps them. They don't travel. You know, they've already had a couple of days off since the injury already. So, like, they don't seem to be panicked about it, but I don't think it's ideal for them. And we'll get your take on that on the other side. We'll get people caught up to date with the basketball, some more late-night picks. And we'll see what McKinnis thinks about the new look Green Bay Packers.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
4.22, the fat man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Level 1 continues. This is SportsRage on the SportsGrid Radio and Television Networks. 51-48 St. Mary's. We got a good one. It's a close one. There's really just sort of pride on the line here. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, St. Mary's won the regular season title, but Gonzaga beat them last week. No one really cares about these conference tournaments. These conference tournaments only really matter. It's really cool. I shouldn't say that none of the conference tournaments matter. Like, I watched the SoCon last night, McKinnis. It was like East Tennessee State versus Samford. And it was wicked. It was like, because you know what? It was simple. Winner gets into the tournament, loser goes back to obscurity. Right? And ain't nobody on either of those teams going to the NBA. So, like, basically, the NCAA tournament is their dream. It's like so close. You know what I mean? It's like you're so close. And it was a wild game. Like, I love that emotion and stuff. But all you need to know, guys, about some of these conference tournaments is Bill Self is resting his starters for the Big 12 conference tournament. Not all of them, but he's, 2 starters aren't playing at all. And everyone else is going to be load managed. And he's never really cared about this stuff. So they're finally just getting to the point now where they admit it. We don't care, right, about your stupid little cash cow conference tournament that's made for TV when we were just talking about it. Nobody's going to remember whether you scored a goal in Toronto in November or not, right? Cats Jayhawks ain't going to be judged this week. They're going to be judged in 2 weeks in March Madness what happens. And coaches sort of get that. So 51-50 right now. And McKinnis, speaking of March Madness, you've got a wild play on St. Mary's to win it all at 55-1.
Into the futures market, Gabe. That was my goal for this year. I'm not a huge player in the college basketball markets, but so many teams, right? And you can get in early. And I become a futures better a lot more, as have you, it seems like over the last several years. I've tried to join you in on that fun. And, we're betting every day. I'm watching sports every day. So why not make a bet pre-flop? Why not try and get on a good number? I've seen as low as 7-1 for Arizona. I've got them 20-1 to win the national championship. So with them at 20-1, with St. Mary's at 55-1, I've also got Kentucky at 20-1. I feel like I have a decent portfolio right now. So I'm rooting on a couple teams here, kind of dabbling which teams I want to grab a little bit of hold of here, who I want to pick here. I got in on Tennessee, but at that 10-1, I'm not even sure I'm happy I even grabbed them. But I got a couple good prices right
Tennessee?
Now.
I want to talk myself into Tennessee as well. I really do, but I kind of know better. It's like, you know what I mean? It's one of those, I've seen this script before. A lot of these SEC teams, they're so athletic and they look so good, they can't shoot. Then you get them outside of their element. Like suddenly they're not at home. They're not in their own they're not just in the South suddenly. It's like, no, man, you're playing in Connecticut now. We're playing in Philadelphia tomorrow or whatnot. They get thrown off. But this Tennessee team is different. They can score too. They play defense. They're athletic. They can score. I do believe, I think Tennessee guys are going to win the SEC conference tournament. So that's my prediction for the SEC. I think they're going to win. But you talked about big, long, putting a portfolio together. I'll just suggest one team that I think has a great number that nobody really ever talks about that can play with anybody in the country. The Baylor Bears are 40-1 to win the national championship. And I can't guarantee they're not going to lose their first 3 games. They're not losing the first 2. So then suddenly they're into the Sweet 16. Like I'd be shocked if they don't make it to the Elite 8. Now, it's one thing, though, as we all know, it's always tough making these predictions before we see the damn bracket and who they got to play. But I'm telling you, Baylor at 40-1, they're a dark horse sleeper. They could do some damage in this tournament.
Baylor's a fun team to watch, too. They've got guys that can make plays. You talked about it, Gabe, getting out of your element. That's one thing about Tennessee I've noticed. They've got guys that can get stops. They've got rim protectors. I know you mentioned they're a good offensive team, but I was talking with Adam Trigger from WagerTalk.com about this as well today, about some of these teams. And, you look at some of these teams that are so great defensively, so deep, guys that can guard 1 through 5. But you get into a tournament like this, and we all know, the old cliche, right? Nobody wants to hear it. Defense wins championships. But you really do need a guy that can say, give me the ball. I'm going to win us this game. And some teams don't have that. I think Baylor does. So I'm with you, man. It's a really, really good price.
Although if I had to pick one team, I think it's the chalk. Or not the pure chalk, but I think it's the Houston Cougars. If I had to ride one team, and the number keeps coming down. We talked about it like 2 weeks ago, whatever, when Mattress Mac made the bet. He got it like plus 800 or something, plus 900. And he was right when he said, well, I knew I was going to bet them, and the number's only going to keep dropping fast now. We're sort of getting here, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, Selection Sunday's coming up. It's this Sunday. Like, it's here. So, like, the time's now, actually. Like, I waited. I missed out on some better numbers at 10-1 with the Houston Cougars. But if I had to take Houston, UConn, or Purdue, I think Houston could beat them. I really do. I think this is Houston's year this year. But your Arizona play at 20-1 is not bad. That's all you know what? You did a good job. Just try to. Duke is another. Duke, I was interested in Duke, but they'll lose a close game. But North Carolina are a team that no one are talking about. You just talked about having scores, NBA talent, guys that have been there, done that. North Carolina have it all. People aren't talking about them for whatever reason, but they're dangerous. But, just getting like 4 or 5 teams in that 25-1 range and stuff, 15-1, whatever, 20-1 and up, it's not a bad strategy. I like some of the teams you've got there.
I'm happy to hear it, Gabe. And, you mentioned some of these teams, people looking to lay chalk, maybe the favorites, right? I like in a bracket scenario, tournament scenario, giving myself a chance. Some people say hedging's for gardeners. I think hedging and gambling is a way to make money. That's what we're all here for, right? I mean, if anybody wants to make fun of me for hedging a 55-1 St. Mary's bet, they can go right ahead, right? So for me, in a bracket scenario, I like setting myself up for this. But looking at like an NHL or NBA, one thing I've tried to get better at, people talk about the rollover method, right? Bet a team to win the series, do it again, right? Or bet a team to win this game, do it again, roll it over. I've gained respect for people that, can go into a playoff round or a playoff series or even right now and say, you know what? I'm going to bet the Florida Panthers to win the Stanley Cup right now. They might be the favorite. They might be one of the favorites. Doesn't bother me because you know what? You know how much a 30-1 ticket on a certain team in the NHL is worth if they don't win? Nothing. You can brag about these great tickets, right?
Most of the people that talk about you should have rolled it over, didn't even have the future bet or roll it over either.
Yeah.
I saw someone do that. I remember when the Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl, I was with someone in the sports book in Vegas, and he cashed the ticket. He took the Ravens before the playoffs started. They were big long shots that year too. I don't know, they got like 27-1 or something like that. 25-1, exact 25, 30-1. It was something really big. And the guy standing there was Jorge Gonzalez. Jorge goes, "Oh, you would have made much more money if you just would have rolled over the 3 playoff games and then the Super Bowl." And Buddy said back to him, "How much did you win on the Super Bowl?" Right? And he said, "Well, I'm going to the window to cash my ticket for $12,000 right now." So you can tell me, you give me all the advice. That's the modern gambling world, right? And the modern everything world. Everybody that has no experience or background in anything thinks they should give advice to people that do. Right? Especially in gambling. You see it all the time. Somebody will post a parlay and, "Oh, they should have done this. You could have done that." I've got jackasses on Twitter that do it to me all the time. I'm like, I'll go 5-0. "Oh, you would have made more if you didn't play the puck-and-a-half on that game." Right? It's like, yeah, well, thanks for your concern, jackass. Right?
Well, Gabe, last time I checked,
I really don't care, but I really don't care what people say. So,
last time I checked, there wasn't a college degree in handicapping, right? There wasn't a textbook on how to do it. We all do it the way we want to do it. My least favorite part about this business are the egos inside the business. Like you and I, when I come on your show and you and I are on opposite pages, you look at me and laugh. We smile together. It's funny. Like, nobody is saying like, "You're wrong. Like, why did you bet that? Like, you're an idiot." Like, to me, that's the best part about this game that we're in is we all look at things differently. We just talked about baseball and the analytic aspect of it. You could see a graph and I could see a graph, and we both end up on different picks. That's what betting to me is all about.
I'll tell you too. Like I said, we're in this era right now where everybody thinks they're in the cool kid group, right? Yeah, not everybody can be like that cool, group. And I've learned this by being around for as long as I have. The best people, we don't know who they are. You know what I'm saying? Like,
good point.
We don't know, right? And I was at the Super Bowl and somebody was telling me about a dude that was moving numbers in Vegas and stuff. And I said, hey, who is he? And they said, he's just a guy, right? He doesn't have a website, doesn't do shows. He just crushes it and makes millions of dollars, right? He basically, quite frankly, doesn't want to share his tips. Like, you know what I'm saying? Right? But then you get other guys that are telling people, don't trust these new people that are doing sports videos and stuff and all these stuff as they do a video, right?
About those guys.
I see these other handicappers. I'm not going to name names because whatever. Like, I see some of them, you can't trust these people in the marketplace now, but I'm not like them. I'm different. So, me, I would never do this. It's like, no. The other one is the so-called sharp guy, whatever, normally the older guy in Vegas that will rip everything about people that have deals with sports books and stuff, yet would freaking jump in a heartbeat if a sports book offered them the money to do a deal. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Like the so-called sharps and all this type of stuff. It's like there's so much, there's so many. It's sort of like the poker industry was. There's just a lot of sort of sleazeballs and fake phonies and stuff. But I don't think they're bad people. I think they're just wannabes. I don't think poker is like just full of poker is full of scumbags. Like the poker community are just full of scumbags, point blank. But
yeah,
I'm not this sports handicapping in this new social media bit where whatever, everyone has their little shtick. I don't think they're bad people. I just, I think they don't realize that nobody really respects their picks or cares what they say, but they can pretend that they do because they get hits, right?
Well, right now there's a real confusion, I think, out there, which is what is entertainment and what is information. And, I'm a young guy, right? I like watching some of the young people that are doing their funny stuff. They're making me laugh. I'm not watching for information. That is the key. Info or entertainment.
That's
and
like
some
news,
people are
right?
good at doing both.
Well, info generally is boring, right? Like, put it this way. Like, if Stephen A. Smith or Pat McAfee or whatever on ESPN sat there and read data about how to win money betting on basketball, what do you think the ratings are compared to what the ratings are of Stephen A. Smith yelling and saying something stupid and crazy?
No, but Gabe, not to pat you on,
That's just
not,
the reality of it.
Not to kiss your butt, but you're fun, but you also give out picks. Like you rage.
I appreciate that.
And also,
you're trying to. Yeah, thank you.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. It's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
4.22. The fat man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets and when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency. The pimps, the parts, officers, the people, the buster, but everybody else in between. 61-54 right now for St. Mary's. Looks like St. Mary's is going to win this basketball game for real, and it's really slowed down. I need this game to open up, but I don't think the total is going to get there either. Gonzaga just aren't scoring. Good job by St. Mary's suffocating Gonzaga. And it's a positive step, actually, for your future, McInnes, with St. Mary's for their confidence, right? They went they were undefeated in conference play, and they had one more game left to do it and pull it off to run the table in conference play, which had only happened like 3 or 4 times in their conference history, and they got smoked at home by Gonzaga. So if they would have gotten back to this game again in their conference championship game now and gotten smoked again by Gonzaga, don't tell me it wouldn't have hurt their confidence going into the tournament, right? They would have been like, how good are we really? We just got lit up twice. For them to bounce back and beat a very good Gonzaga team like they're about to here, pretty impressive. Gives them some confidence going into the tournament for your ticket.
They have to be feeling good. You know, I think that in pro sports, they say one game is one game. You know, a certain game can't change things. I'm with you on that. The college level, I think one thing is different between the pros. Well, there's also, you know, a ton of things, but it's the confidence, right? It's the mental aspect of the game. You see in the NBA, a team could be down 25 points. They look like they're up 5, right? The way that they play. In college basketball, you can really see sometimes a team just get mentally weak late in games.
It's true. Because I don't want to say pros, I'm saying they don't care, but at the same point in time, it's their job, right? So they're just going to keep shooting and doing the same thing. I think like that's people like look aheads and letdowns and stuff with pro teams. It's like, dude, it's muscle memory, bro.
They're just playing.
They're going out there and they're playing. They're winning, they're losing, but like they're playing, right? Like it's a good point that you raised that you'll notice their body language really isn't any different. They're still shooting the ball, right? Watch a Piston game. They're losing by 12. Buddy will still dunk it. You know what I mean? It's not like, whoa, we're losing. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Gabe.